Let's do it. My favorite time of the week where we talk to Buster Olney of ESPN on 104.5 The Team, 104.5theteam.com. Thanks to Mohawk, Army, Navy, and Buster. We're even more excited to talk to you about this week than normal just because we're so stinking tired about how the NFL is messing up and all these idiots off the field who are making bad decisions. And you have actually well chronicled how Major League Baseball needs to be taking notes and watching how the NFL has handled this decision. What will Major League Baseball do long term? Should we expect any changes or orientations after what's gone on in the NFL?
I hope so. Baseball's history is that it often acts too slow, that it's often reactive, and here's an opportunity for them to be progressive, to be proactive, and right now they could seize the high ground. If Major League Baseball came out and announced, look, if you have an incident with your partner, with your child, where you're accused of hitting them, then you're not going to take the field. And to be honest, I don't know why they don't just grab that stance, because, let's just play it out for a moment. Let's say, and I know Bud Selig came out last week and he talked about how, well, it's a good thing we haven't had that issue in front of us. That's really naive, in my opinion, because you guys know that, domestic violence is something that happens in every demographic, every walk of life. It's possible that it pops up, and baseball has no idea if tonight a star on a team that's contending for the playoffs wind up in one of these situations. And one thing we do know is that if that did happen, then the answer of, well, we're talking to the union about it, is not going to be tenable, and they will get so much pressure and so much reaction will happen so quickly because of what's happened in the NFL. And that's why I think baseball, needs to act and come out and say this is what our policy is, because anything short of that, it's going to be incredibly damaging to the sport. They have an opportunity to get ahead of this.
Buster, let's talk about on the field, because we can actually do that with baseball a little bit. Great news for the Mets coming out of this kid, Jacob deGrom, NL Rookie of the Year candidate. But he goes out, strikes out 8 to start a game?
Yeah, that was impressive. And, I love what Terry Collins said after the game, the most impressive start of the game that he's ever seen. And, his performance to me is just one more reason for Mets ownership to step up and invest more money in this team for 2015, because you have deGrom and you have Zach Wheeler and you have Noah Syndergaard, and by the way, that Matt Harvey guy will be back next year as well. The improvement of Travis d'Arnaud, Lucas Duda. This is a team of great promise, and the Atlanta Braves are coming down, and that's why the Mets need to invest in their own product, and I really hope they do. And Jacob deGrom next year would be, I think, going into the season would be a reason for real hope for them.
And speaking of hope, that's what the Mets fans sleep with, live with, breathe with, eat with. So much hope with this young rotation that you just pointed out. Is there a chance that they're one of the best in baseball next year, Buster?
I don't know if they'll mature that quickly, but if they were in the upper third, I think that's a reasonable expectation that they would be that good. The talent's certainly there. When you talk to people with other teams and you get feedback on different pitchers, I'm sure that they'll look at the Mets as being one of the top 10 rotations next year.
Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team, 104.5theteam.com. Buster Olney with us every Thursday at 5:15. Thanks to Mohawk, Army, Navy.
Buster, you said something a little while ago that's just been ringing through my ears, that Tanaka's elbow is a ticking time bomb. Is there anything he can do when he goes out on Sunday, as we're hearing he will, that puts that nightmare to bed and we can go, all right, he's going to be okay?
Not really. That's the hard thing about this, but I do think it's the right decision for the Yankees to send him out there to get some information. That, to me, is what this is about now that they're basically out of contention, because he's going to go out, and as Joe Girardi said to us before our Sunday night game when they played the Orioles the other day, if he's going out there, he's going to throw all of his pitches, and he's going to be at game speed. And if he's good to go and he comes through that and he's fine in his last 2 starts, then the Yankees can pencil him in for the start of 2015 and feel good about it. On the other hand, if he goes out there, he has any kind of discomfort, then he's going to have Tommy John surgery. And at least you get that information, going into the off season. And they need as much information as possible, because besides the shortstop question, the starting pitching question is the one that's going to hang over the Yankees this winter.
Okay, so you said if he goes out there and pitches well, then they can feel good about it. So will they be able to be comfortable and say, oh, we're not going to have this surgery? Or will that cloud just still be looming of, well, he pitched good here, but gosh, he might still have to have that surgery?
I'll defer to my colleague Kurt Schilling, who said in our meeting last weekend, he's going to have Tommy John surgery. We just don't know when, which takes us back to the ticking time bomb analogy.
Oh. Why not have it now, Buster? I don't understand. If he's going to have
it. And let's say, and I'll give you an example. When I was covering the Orioles in 1995, Mike Jackson, who was a reliever and a really good reliever, came in and took a physical with the Orioles, and the Orioles looked at his elbow ligament, which was completely beaten up, and they said, you know what, that's not going to work. They failed him on the physical. The deal fell apart, and he went on. He pitched like 8 years. You just never know exactly how someone's body's going to react, and if he actually can, if Tanaka can go out there and pitch, let's say it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you might as well do it. I mean, until he's not functional, he should continue to pitch.
All right, so let's do good news for the Yankees pitching staff. Dellin Betances goes out and breaks a mark set by Mariano Rivera for reliever strikeouts in a season that's been standing since '96. But you said I saw you wrote recently that they're going to re-sign Robertson no matter what. With Betances being that dominant, is Robertson still a slam dunk as the closer next year?
Well, I didn't write that they would sign him no matter what. Here's what I did write the other day about qualifying offers, because you guys remember how that process works. When the season's over, all potential free agents, as before they hit the market, their old teams have the opportunity to give them a qualifying offer, which this year it'll be about $15 million. And what that does is it basically, if the player accepts the qualifying offer, then he's going to be on a one-year deal for about $15 million. If he rejects the qualifying offer, he goes out in the marketplace, and the Yankees get a compensation draft pick. And so from the Yankees' perspective, as a team that has a lot of resources, and we saw them do this a couple years ago with Rafael Soriano, it's almost a no-brainer. Because if let's say they give him the qualifying offer and he takes it, having a player on a one-year deal really limits their risk. That means you get a veteran player who's pretty good on a short-term contract. And I had an agent say to me a couple days ago that he actually assesses the value of that at about $3 million because you're avoiding the risk, and you don't have to sign a Papelbon to a 4-year deal or some other player. And you know what? If it just so happens that he doesn't want to take a one-year deal, he wants a longer-term deal, then you tip your cap to him. You take the draft pick compensation to help a farm system, and then you move on.
Buster Olney on 104.5 The Team. You're home for Yankees baseball. You're home for New York sports. Thanks to Mohawk Army Navy. He's with us every Thursday at 5:15. And Buster, in regards to Chris Young, why does he look so good in pinstripes? Of course, on this station we got Yankee Met fans, battling about this one. Why is he so good with the pinstripes, not so good with the Mets?
I talked to him on Sunday before the game, and just sort of asked him, and I said, "Man, you're on a roll here." And he said to me that he'd never had more fun playing baseball, and he talked about the time off after the Mets cut him, and then he agreed to terms with the Yankees, and then he was able to do some work with Kevin Long, their hitting coach, and it wasn't a situation like as you have earlier in the year when you're trying to play and make adjustments on the fly, where you do something in batting practice and an hour and a half later you're in the batter's box and you're trying to make it happen against someone throwing 95. He said that really helped him, that he was able to really get some things in place that made him a better hitter. And it's a funny story how he got to them. Brian Cashman, their general manager, told me that the analytics advisors in the Yankees front office were telling him, look, let's sign Chris Young. He's better than his numbers. Let's sign Chris Young. And Cashman said, no, I'm not really. No, I'm not interested. And then after a while, he was like, you know what? What the heck? We got a spot in the outfield in the minor leagues. Why not? And so that's how they signed him, and he's playing well.
Those analytic guys, man.
That's incredible.
Speaking of them, they're the ones that said, hey, let's bring Headley over. He was supposed to be a rental, but now when you look at next year, you're going to have A-Rod, who hasn't played a game in a year, at third. Teixeira, who can't stay on the field at first. What are the odds the Yankees go, hey, we're just going to keep Headley on board because we need that kind of depth at the corners?
They like Headley a lot. There's no question about it. He's been a good player for them. He could play first. He could play third. He could DH, as you just said. And when I've talked to Chase, he talked about how much he loved it. I mean, he was as enthusiastic as Chris Young was about, everything's first class, everything's done the right way. But here's the big question. How much money is he going to want? My gut would be that he's going to, because generally speaking, and this has not been a good year for him to take into free agency, it would make sense for him, after playing all those years in San Diego, to take a one-year deal and to try to reestablish his value. And, it's a great park for him to hit in because of the short right field porch. But would he take a one-year deal? I don't see any chance the Yankees would sign him unless he did a 1 or 2 year contract. And here's the other thing, too. In terms of what's important and what the Yankees need, that spot, first base, third base, is about 5th on the pecking order. So if they spend money in other spots, let's say Robertson accepts a tender or a qualifying offer. Let's say that they sign a pitcher. Let's say they sign J.J. Hardy to be Derek Jeter's replacement at shortstop. You may not have any money left over for Chase Headley. So I think it's one of those things we'll just have to wait and see if Chase works to make it happen and takes less money than he might get elsewhere.
Buster, only on 104.5 The Team. And Buster, you had a tidbit this week about Reds pitcher Johnny Cueto. What does the future look like for him?
And I wrote my column about that today, and this was purely, me looking at this situation and saying if the Reds want to solve some of their looming payroll issues, this would be a smart play for them. Trade Johnny Cueto, who's a Cy Young candidate. He's making $10 million next year, and then he's eligible for free agency after that, and he's going to get, $22 million a year. And the Reds already have some real payroll issues with money that they owe Joey Votto, Jay Bruce, on down the line, Homer Bailey. And so they're probably not going to be able to re-sign Cueto. And given the looming financial issues, you know what? Why not trade him out, get some prospects in return, maybe even attach him to Brandon Phillips? So you basically say what the Red Sox did when they traded Adrian Gonzalez to the Dodgers. Look, if you want Adrian Gonzalez, you got to take Carl Crawford, you got to take Josh Beckett. The Reds can basically tell the teams, look, we'll trade you Johnny Cueto, but you got to take Brandon Phillips and his $36 million and give us a decent prospect in return. My gut is that the Reds will not do that, but who knows? And he certainly would be someone who would fit the Yankees because he'd be on a one-year deal, and they would have the type of prospects. We talked all summer about how they don't have a great prospect situation. They would have the type of prospects to perhaps coax the Reds into a deal of Cueto for just one season.
Buster, the playoffs getting ever so close, the Angels locking down that AL West that looked like it belonged to the A's not too long ago. With them being able to just kind of outrun the A's, are they the team to beat in the AL?
I think the Orioles are, and the Angels. And I mean, let's make this clear: there's not really one strong team. The Angels have Mike Trout, and they've got a really good bullpen. And I love Jared Weaver; he's a great competitor. C.J. Wilson's pitching better down the stretch, so they could win. But I think I'm going to wind up picking the Orioles to win the American League playoffs because I just think their bullpen is so dominant. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about, you need to get 6-7 innings out of your starting pitchers. You need to win with starting pitching in October. I think the Orioles bullpen's so great that you will consistently see Buck Showalter, the Orioles manager, calling for guys in relief in the 4th, 5th, 6th innings and basically playing matchup the rest of the way because they have Zach Britton and Andrew Miller and Darren O'Day and Brian Mattis and Tommy Hunter. That team is loaded in the bullpen. And remember, you have the built-in off days in the postseason.
And the Washington Nationals 7-3 in their last 10, 87 wins on the year right now. Are they the team to beat in the National League?
I think so. Although I'm going to stick with my preseason pick of the Cardinals to win the World Series. I think that the Nationals are the best overall team, and we saw it this week. Their bullpen has certainly gotten a lot better. The rotation is strong. Steven Strasburg is pitching better, and they do have a deep lineup, especially now that Ryan Zimmerman's making his way back.
Beautiful, Buster Olney. Thanks to Mohawk, Army, Navy, your work boot headquarters in the Capital Region. Go see them. And Buster, it's getting close to postseason time, baby. It's exciting around here. Thanks for joining us this week.
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys.